What is up, everybody? Sinestro here, and today we are going to be taking a look at Black Rook Hold. Yet again, we are doing these dungeons on Heroic, just to give you an idea of how the trash and the boss mechanics work. So, Black Rook Hold, pretty fun instance actually. It's one of the harder of the new instances. It's a 4-boss instance, and it contains some interesting mechanics. It's a lot of stacking mechanics. This dungeon's all about teaching you how to stack as groups. But as you can see here, we're clearing up through the first trash. It's a reasonable pulls. Silences and stuns are great on these mobs here because they do casts that are interruptible, so just make sure that you're watching out for casts. And you can see the soul echoes, which is a mirror of something that's coming up in the first boss, the Amalgam of Souls. So as you can see here, we're just coming up now to the Amalgam of Souls. He's this big sort of skeleton demon-y thing, so things you need to watch out for. As damage dealer, you need to watch out for an ability called Soul Echoes. It will target any player, and will start leaving echoes of their soul with a big swirling circle around it. You need to move out of the radius of the swirling circle because it's going to do a crap ton of damage when they explode. He's also going to put a big ass AoE blast over half of the arena that you need to watch out for, so make sure you're moving. And he's also going to do this grip, and if you are inside the range of his grip when he finishes, it explodes, dealing a decent chunk of damage. He also throws out swirling scythes, which you need to avoid, so just make sure, and if you are targeted with them, you have a couple of seconds to move into a position where you're not going to drop them on top of another person, so make sure you're doing that. And he also has an ability called Glaive Toss, but as you can see there, as long as you're kind of avoiding all of that sort of stuff, you're pretty much golden. Avoid the AoE, move out of the souls, move out of the glaives, and then you're pretty much good to go. Once this is dead, we go through and to one of the next trash sections. Once the Raven Crests have done a little bit of RP here to let us through, we move up through this rather fetching library and then move on to a set of stairs. Once going up these set of stairs, there's lots of spider mobs that are hidden, so just stay together, kill the spiders as they come out of the alcoves in the side, just AoE bursting things down. If you're a Shadow Priest, I'm very sorry, you are the Shadow Priest debuff. But once you've done that, we're moving up towards Ilisania Ravencrest, who is the second boss. The staircase is pretty easy, you don't have a lot to worry about here. The spiders are fairly easy to contain and nuke. It's when we come into this room that we start dealing with quite large pulls, and there is a big patrol pack there that you see that we got both of. It is handleable, especially on Heroic, but on harder difficulties, obviously you don't want to do that. There are adds that do a large frontal barrage ability that you need to make sure that you're not standing in because it deals a lot of damage. Big AoE stuns, silences, any form of CC is really, really useful on these packs because you're dealing with a lot of mobs that have the potential to do a lot of damage. If you have a look at the health bars, you can see we're taking some reasonable spike damage that would be best mitigated if possible. Once you've done this sort of section, you run to the right down here through this little corridor and head up this set of stairs, and I send a whisper to somebody there, and then we kill up this next pack, and then we're almost at Ilisania Ravencrest. She's a big demon hunter. So what do we need to worry about here? If you're targeted by the ability called Dark Rush, this will target a couple of players. You need to stack together. You'll see the big sort of red arrow. If you stack together, once she charges at you, she's going to leave a sort of fire patch on the floor. If you have two, then that's going to mean multiple. So make sure you're stacking together. You can see the 3 arrows there for the people that are targeted. She is they're not going to gather, and you can see there's now a lot of fire on the floor. On Heroic, not a bigger problem. On Mythic Plus, you're going to be wanting as much of the arena as possible. This ground is called Fellblaze Ground. It's fire damage. It deals a decent amount of damage. Don't stand in it. That's pretty obvious. Don't stand in fire. For healers, Dark Rush is going to be a decent amount of damage to players, so make sure that you're preparing for that. Shields, heal over times, anything like that. And for tanks, once you use an ability called Vengeful Shear, just making you're using a form of active mitigation because that is going to be a decent amount of damage. Other than that, that's Ilisania. She's it's just fire management and grouping. As you can see here, it's all about the first boss was about spreading and making sure that you're not dropping things in bad places. The second one was about grouping and making sure that you don't drop too much fire in the wrong places. Once you do that, we go through another set of staircases, and this one has a lot of rolling trash. There's a lot of rolling trash in here. There's lots of bats that spawn. There's lots of little goblin and demon things that spawn. The best thing to do here is just kind of keep moving, because if you stop at certain points, then lots of stuff is going to come in. So just keep rolling with the trash as it appears, and just keep moving through it. And we're making our way up towards Smash Spite the Hateful. So you can see here there's these big boulders that are rolling down this staircase. We need to run up this staircase. Now, if you get hit by one, it stuns you. If you get hit by two, you're dead. So make sure that you're dodging these boulders and because especially when you're dealing with like Mythic Plus timers, that's going to be something that's going to be a real Frogger moment that you need to not do. Now you can start seeing the bats that are rolling down the stairs here. These just keep coming until you get to the next boss. So you need to be constantly kind of like pulling and moving and pulling and moving. It's very, very Gauntlet-esque. The bats don't have a lot of health. They're the sort of like things that you need to worry about, the big fell guards and things like that, because they do have big cleave ability, so just make sure that you're managing that. And as you can see here, we have a hunter who's doing a ridiculous amount of damage with barrage, so we're just kind of over pulling and pulling as much as we can and making our way up to Smash Bite. So, Smash Bite, what do we have to worry about here? Smash Mat's tanks, this is kind of like your fight. So there's an ability called Brutality, which his Smash Bite Brutality is a Smash Bite damaging melee attacks grant him Brutality in proportion to the damage done. When he reaches 100 Brutality, he'll unleash a Brutal Haymaker at his current target. So you have to watch out for his energy. So just minimize the damage you take using your mitigation and things like that when he's doing his swings. When he does fill up, he's going to use an ability called Brutal Haymaker. This is going to do 1,000,000 damage. And it's going to increase the rest of his damage done by 25% for 10 seconds. It's really bad if that happens. He's also going to have an ability called Hateful Gaze. One Hateful Gaze goes onto a player. Every other player in that group needs to stand in front of him. As you can see here, nobody stood in front of me, and now I take massively increased damage. What you need to do is stand in front of the player so that when the charge hits, it goes through as many people as possible. That way, that it's going to reduce the amount of time that your players have increased damage taken. Other than that, he's a fairly simple boss. He's going to have bats coming down and vomit, as you saw. So just make sure that you're sort of like managing that and staying out of the way of those. We're now moving on to the last fight, which is Lord Kurtalos Ravencrest. This is like a two-stage encounter where first you fight one mob and then you fight the big demon intruder of the instance. This one is about dodging AoE. There's not a massive amount that goes on really, but we'll have a check things. So there's an ability called for the tank, for everyone to kind of like bear in mind, it's called Unerring Shear, which is a deadly attack that shears targets, inflicting a good amount of damage and causing them to bleed for a while. So that's something that healers need to be aware of. So if players get targeted by shear, healers, make sure you're putting hots on them, shielding them, that's the things like that. And you can see that we've started pulling the boss and there's already big AoE pulses going on. This fight is now, you can see, we're just coming up to the end of phase 1. And now the big demon is going to reveal himself. And we're going to get into the fight proper. So once this big demon spawns, yet again, this is more about dodging the AoE blasts and things that come on the floor. He's going to be throwing glaives about that you need to dodge. He's going to be throwing big laser beams of AoE that you need to watch, and he's going to be casting shear. He's also going to be casting sort of like these gripping hands and things around the place that you need to watch out for. Other than that, there's not much to this boss, to be honest with you. Like, his sheer abilities and stuff, when get hit, is really bad. Also, he does this infest ability, which is going to put things which are going to make you drop, like, poison clouds. That just needs to be nuked from range as quickly as possible, just to avoid dropping poison patches in bad places. But, as you can see, this boss is going down pretty damn quickly, and this is the main mechanic of the fight, right? It's a big swirling laser phase where he just, like, constantly is casting this big beam. And you just need to make sure that you're running around the encounter and avoiding it as much as possible, and the old poison patches. Once that's done, guys, this instance is pretty much over. Black Rook Hold is not... It's one of the more challenging in terms of, like, you need to be doing grouping in order to avoid a lot of damage. On Heroic, it's really not hard, but then not many other dungeons are very hard on Heroic. Just on Mythic, just make sure that you're avoiding as much AoE damage as possible. And making sure that you're dealing with the grouping mechanics properly. But other than that, guys, that's Black Rook Hold. Thanks very much for watching. We have only a few left to do. I've been Sinestra, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.